Hello everyone, my name is Amr Thabit and this is the first video of our free content series for malware analysis. Today we'll take a look at an Iranian APT attack, and it's a targeted attack against specific targets. They say some Saudi targets and some other targets. And what I mean with APT attack, that it's an attack designed specially by a group of people to target specific targets. It's not a malware that is spread over the network, spread over the internet and infects random people. It's only a specialized attack with social engineering, with exploits, with samples that's only designed to infect specific targets or specific companies. And today we'll take a look at the very first stage, which is a Word document. And before I get to start, I want to say something, is that when you are working on the very first stage of a malware, of an attack, you mostly get to see documents like Word or PDF that includes sometimes Visual Basic script or JavaScript or PowerShell script. Sometimes you'll work on a compromised web server that will have a PHP shell or Perl malware. And for all of this, you have to have a good understanding of programming, good understanding with how development works. You understand how to develop in maybe one or two languages and able to read any type of code. Let's say something. All programming language or most of programming language are very similar. Only some syntax who are different, like $sign at the beginning, semicolon at the end, function is called definition or variable is called dimension, but whatever it is, it's kind of the same. And if you have a good programming mindset, you can understand what's this code supposed to do, how to solve specific problem in coding. This is very important skills when it comes to malware analysis. And let's get started with our malware. So this is an article I downloaded from SecureWorks. They are talking about an Iranian attack, and they give us the IOCs, or the indication of compromise. If you saw any of these domains in your network, if you are working in a company, that means that you may be targeted by this group and you may be infected. So basically, they sent emails with a document file, Microsoft Office document, and it has this. And when you open it, you can see this. You can see this in front of you. Health secure user registration form, some social engineering, and it includes a macro. And you have to enable it to be able to click here to complete the form and to see some stuff and so on. But actually, when you enable the macro, you execute the malicious code. So we will look at the hashes. So let's say we have this hash. You can go to hybridanalysis.com and download the sample. I have already downloaded the sample, which is here, the same MD5, and we'll not open it as a Word document, but we will try to extract the Visual Basic script macro or whatever the macro is inside and analyze it. For Word documents, there's multiple tools to extract the Visual Basic script from it. One of them is to open it in Word and go to the Visual Studio Editor and get the Visual Basic macro. But for myself, I used to use a tool called Office Mal Scanner. It's really a great tool and very simple to use, and it directly extracts Visual Basic macros, any macro, any attachment image file or something. It's very useful tool. So to use it, it's very simple tool. We will and then Office Mouse Scanner. So basically, it's a tool created by this guy anyway, and it has this option scan. It searches for B files, shellcode, blah blah, and so on. Info, which basically dump early structures, and it can also download VB macro, which is what we want. And inflate to decompress, docs file, we don't care about it. So we can try to use Office malware scanner and the document and scan search for shellcode and encrypted B files. We can try scan. Doesn't look like working. We can try info, which basically extracts a macro, because we are sure that it has a macro from how the document looks like and from the article. We click on info. He say Visual Basic macro code was found inside this file, so that's great, and the compressed macro file is stored here. So if we follow this path, it's here, there, and this is it, this document. We can open it with Notepad++, and the language, let's make it more, yeah. So here is the malicious document. It looks like it has so many encoded, encrypted data. It looks big, it looks complicated, but we'll see it's very simple. So let's get started. The first thing we see here, attribute, Visual Basic name, blah blah. Let's take a look, as we don't know much about programming and we don't know much about Visual Basic. So he say VB name, this document, okay, VB base is this. So it looks like he's setting some basic variables. It could be this information used in every macro, let's say. Some things that's used by Word. So we don't care about this. VB control, command button, MS form. I don't know what's all of this, but let's say he said that, or we saw in the picture that there was a button. So maybe he's talking about the buttons that's included, or the forms, because here he say click here to complete the form. So maybe he click on the button and then the form appear and so on. And then we see here private declare function. Function means a comment or a group of code, or like some lines of code grouped together to be a comment. And we will see this. And you say URL download to file. So we can expect its function to download a file from a URL. Makes sense. And here a very important part. We say lib, which is library, URL mon, and alias, we don't care about what's the meaning of it, URL download to file. Here for especially these two names, if you are a little bit experienced malware analyst or a shellcode writer or a shellcode analyst, you would definitely know this library and definitely know this function. Basically, URLmon is a Windows library that has a function called URL download to file, And this function, it's like it's designed especially for malware writers or for shellcode writers. It's very, very simple to use, and every malware writer used it at some point. It's the most common function and the most common library to be used for downloaders, for malicious documents, for shellcodes, and everything. So basically, here, this function is a very straight function. You just give it the URL, you just give it the file name where you want this to be saved, and it downloads the file to you. You just have to execute it if it's a malware, and that's it. So basically, you can understand from here that he's using a Windows library called urlmon to download a file. Very basic way of downloading a file, and maybe he executes it later. After that, error success, we don't care, blah blah, some things we don't care about. The comment, let's see, the comment, when he clicks, so it's command button 1, function, the action click. We can understand that this function gets executed, or this subroutine gets executed when he click on a button. Then call to show hide a table, so it looks like it shows a table. Show hide a table, blah 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 blah. It doesn't look like it is doing anything malicious. We go to blah blah blah, and then table select. It looks like something added to the table, really. Could be all of this part is social engineering, just show fake table with fake numbers and fake data, so that the user thinks that the document is a normal document and he has to fill it, and so on. And font hidden, not hidden, show hidden, okay, this to show. So we finished this function, and it doesn't look like through the whole function there's something malicious. Here's subroutine, here's in subroutine. Visual Basic mostly use something and end something. You see with, end with, with, end with, sub, which subroutine, end subroutine, and so on. And then here, public function, we heard function before, download file, takes between brackets. Here is all the parameters that you need for this function, like sine or cosine. It needs the angle to get the sine for it. So you can have a function, you can have function, sine, between brackets, angle, and then close it, and whatever. So here are the needed parameters or arguments for this function. So it takes the URL, takes the local file, which is the file name, the file where you want to store the downloaded file. And this function basically calls to the URL download the file that we already saw it, and we're already monitoring this one. Takes the same source URL, blah blah. So let's see if this download file is used anywhere else. So here's the document to open. Maybe it will be used somewhere. Well, it doesn't look like it's used, but in general, you can find a macro that is only this part, and then it say download file, and between brackets it gives the URL of the malware and where it wants to store it, mostly in the temp, and then execute a function, shell or shell execute, to run this application, or maybe a command called run, whatever, and then run this downloaded file. This is a very common way. Maybe here he wants to maybe here he modified the code later, so he stopped using this function. But it's good to take a look at one type of macros, and now we'll go into another type. Now we'll take a look at subroutine document open. As you see, it's document and open is the action. So this is when a person open a document. So this is the most important function because it automatically gets executed when the victim open the document. So we can see here y equal Windows hidden and then /e and then some encrypted encoded data, and then he says shell PowerShell. PowerShell is an application and kind of scripting language like Visual Basic, and then it gives it y. From the look with this data, I would imagine it's base64. Base64 is a type of encoding, and it basically helps to take any binary data, any binary that could be from 0 to 256, and encode it in kind of letters and numbers, capital and small, and mostly you can see it, there is nothing more than letters, maybe some numbers, I'm not sure, it doesn't include numbers in this one. No, it has some few numbers, and it ends up with equal. Base64 has what they call padding because it converts every 3 bytes into 4 letters. Let's say so the first 4 letters equals to 3 bytes, and then the next 4 letters equals to 3 bytes and 3 bytes and so on. But what if you have at the end only 1 byte remaining or 2 bytes remaining? It converts 1 byte into the 1 byte into 2 letters and then put the remaining equal. Or if it's 2 bytes and convert them into 3 bytes into 3 letters, 3 characters, let's say like this, and then adds 1 equal at the end. So it's used as a padding to not have because sometimes you don't have bytes that are number of bytes are divided by 3. So anyway, it's very recognizable because you can see at the end this 1 equal, 2 equal, and you can see that all are letters and numbers. It could be not true, but it's worth a try. So we go to the CMD. Usually I used to decode base64. There's so many ways you can find online decoders, you can find so many ways to decode them. But the easiest way for me is to use Python. You may be the very first time to use it, to hear about it. It's a very, very simple language, very, very easy to use, and you will see. We'll just create something called S, can make it X, Y, and then we'll give it this long string. The whole data, I saved it in a variable called S, and that's it. What's S is the variable. So now we need to decode it. So basically, you can write S dot decode. It's a function called decode. It's a part of S, and you can give it what type of encoding you want to code with. So I think it's encoded with base64, so I tell them decode it as it's a base64 data and close, and I get some data. It looks like binary corrupted data, but if you look carefully, you will notice that it's full of zeros. It's totally full of zeros. For this, I would think about, okay, let's try to remove all of these zeros and see how it will look like. So if I took the same and I would dot replace, what I want to replace, the 0x00 /x is used to represent a byte that is not a character, and there's no letter he can represent it with, so he says /x and writes the value of the byte in hexadecimal. I want to replace the zeros with nothing. Oh, I've got a PowerShell script. Looks like oh, blah, 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 blah. Here I can say, I don't understand this language, I never wrote in PowerShell, but you can say, web client, download string, so download something, and I can see IP port slash normal URL. So I would imagine he was downloading this. This is one of the URLs, one of his scripts that is downloading. Maybe he's executing them later, maybe not, I don't know. But at least I know that he's downloading this data. You would ask me, okay, you remove the zeros, but what does zeros represent? Basically, in how the computer understands strings, there is two ways on how computer represent strings or text or any letter. There is a way called ASCII and a way is called Unicode. ASCII can find that every character is 1 byte. So if we took this and said print the first byte, it will be a character P. The second one will be O. Third byte or will be W, and so on. So every byte represents one character. In Unicode is a way bigger than ASCII. It tries to represent all languages and all alphabets that you can hear of, including the Chinese, so many letters, so many symbols, Japanese, Korean, Arabic, and of course Latin. And to do this, they can take the 1 byte is not sufficient to represent all languages in the world. So they use 2 bytes. The first byte could be, let's say, representing the language, or let's say, language like Chinese starts with 1, 0, and then whatever, and so on. So they used Unicode to represent all languages. So every letter takes 2 bytes, P0 or 0, and so on. And to be able to read them, you can, rather than replacing all with zeros, so here the code is 64. It's like this. You can say decode UTF-16, which is basically it's a as I told you, it's a way to just represent strings, represent text. So there is UTF-16, there is UTF-8, which basically, let's say UTF-8 is just take 8 bits to represent a letter. UTF-16 takes 16 bits to represent a letter. So if we decode UTF-16, we get the same result. We don't have to care so much about this, but at least you understand that these zeros are normally as part of the string and just different ways of representing text. And anyway, the result is that, back to our shellcode, this means is that he is trying to execute PowerShell and some hidden, no, I don't know, maybe no interface, whatever, and then web client download the string and here. So until this point, you can see we really don't know how to write a script with Visual Basic Script. We don't know PowerShell scripts, but we are able to understand through just the names and the brackets and so on. That is, it tries to download a string giving this URL, and you can see between these brackets is the argument for the function download string, which is bar dot something else, means it's a kind of a function included in this big structure or big container. So there's a web client as a container, and this web client has download string as a function of it, and it calls to it and gives it this URL. So it downloads this URL. Well, that's it for today. On the next video, we'll take a look at the bigger one, the X variable, who will take all of the space64 data, we will decode them, we will analyze them, we'll analyze the PowerShell code, and maybe there will be a shell code inside. So next video will be a little bit harder and a little bit challenging. So see you next video.